Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
Good morning, listeners. You are listening to the Green Ovation Show, where we talk all things climate change, climate solutions, entrepreneurship and innovation. This morning we have an exciting lineup for you, where we are chatting to the Director General of the Environment Centre of Helsinki. Helsinki, I believe, is quite cold at the moment. I was there about a month back, and I think they were just settling into autumn. Listeners, it was freezing. There's no such thing as global warming in Finland. Good morning to you, Mr. Esa Nikunen. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Diane.
We are so happy to have you on the show this morning. I must tell you, besides the cold, I was really impressed with Finland's commitment to a carbon-neutral economy.
Yes, that's right. That's a very important item for us. Even we have got a relatively cold climate. At the moment, we have got minus 8 degrees centigrade in Helsinki and some snow on the ground. But it's very beautiful weather anyway.
That's crazy. So, Mr. Nikunen, were you at the COP22 Marrakesh negotiations this year?
Actually, I wasn't participating in Marrakesh, but last year I was in Paris, and of course I was very pleased that we were able to achieve the agreement in Paris. It was very important for us and very important, I think, for whole the world.
Yeah, and I believe that this was really exciting news for me, was to learn that Helsinki's been named the most sustainable or greenest city in the world. How did Finland or Helsinki achieve that? When did you start making these moves towards sustainable solutions?
I think we have a very long tradition in that area. Actually, the Environment Center in Helsinki started for 140 years ago. Last spring we had 140 years anniversary here. At that time, the main concern was the polluted water and bad air quality. And since that, of course, we have worked with all possible environmental items in the city. It depends on the time which topic have been the most important. At the moment, we have working a lot on climate change issues, and also air quality and water protection are still important in the city.
That's incredible. I mean, you're talking about 140 years, and the issue of climate change is still relatively new. So for the rest of the world, we're only starting to make strides. And I know that, having been to Denmark, and this is what I kept saying to the guys in Copenhagen, is that they've had a 40-year lead on the rest of the world, thanks to the oil crisis. What were you were talking about the pollution of water. What was really the impact there? What industries were affecting your water sources?
Yeah, originally the main impact was from municipalities, the wastewater themselves, and about 50 years ago we built a very high quality wastewater purification plant to Helsinki. But then we have also worked a lot with different industrial wastewaters and had a good success, I would say. And of course, the Baltic Sea around us is not only a concern for Finland, but we have neighboring countries, and especially we have worked a lot with Russia. And I'm pleased to say that the results finally have been relatively good in the water protection concerning, for example, St. Petersburg and some other industrial facilities in Russia. But it has been a long process indeed.
Great. And then I must tell you that we had, I was part of a pre-COP22 Nordic press tour, and we had the privilege of going to visit Kalasatama, which I believe it's translated Fish Harbour, is it? Fish Town?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. It's in,
so tell our listeners about it. Yeah?
Yeah, we are building quite a lot in Helsinki at the moment. The city is growing fast, and Kalasatama is one of the new areas there. And there we have tried to let's say, make it as innovative and as environment friendly as possible. There are lots of different systems being tested there. We try to have very good isolations in the buildings and try to make them as energy efficient as possible. And also the waste sorting system is a very sophisticated one. So we are testing different systems there, and we are hoping to be able to implement them in other parts of Helsinki and also in Finland, and why not globally as well.
That's great. So for our listeners, in case you were wondering, Kalasatama is, for a lack of a better phrase, it's something similar to what Cape Town has done in the waterfront area, where it was old parts of a harbour or a port that was no longer being used, where they have a bit of what we call in South Africa urban renewal. So they're building up this old part or almost forgotten part of these harbours. And it was incredible to see and to hear from the team at Kalasatama that it was a collaboration. It wasn't a thing where traditionally in countries, even where we call ourselves a democracy, we don't really get to be involved in the process. So I was quite impressed that in the Kalasatama development, that you had citizens participating in the planning, participating in ideas, and that there was also a great... the collaboration, I think, was for me the most outstanding thing about the Kalasatama initiative.
Yeah, that's right. We try to get the citizens to take part in all decision making in Helsinki city. And Kalasatama is not an exception. We are trying to utilize the good ideas from citizens and to take them with us in the decision making of different things. They are very active in environmental issues in all areas, I would say, for example.
Yeah, that I think was quite outstanding. How big is your population in Helsinki?
It's now about 630,000.
And in Finland?
5.5 million.
And still you are able to ensure that your ordinary citizens are able to participate in decision making. How does that work? Do you have focus groups or meetings? How does it work?
Yeah, we are using different systems for that. We have got internet discussions group, Facebook, Twitter, and we are arranging meetings on some special issues. Often we are arranging meetings in some parts of the city. For example, last week the mayor himself was arranging a meeting in one part of Western Helsinki, and that kind of meetings we have frequently, at least 4 or 5 times a year with the mayor. But of course, Environment Center, for example, is arranging much more meetings with local people where we are explaining our ideas and we want to get feedback and other ideas that we can then compare with our own.
That's incredible. I think, Mr. Nikunen, what is also interesting for me is that there are pockets of cities around South Africa where we are trying to do similar initiatives. I think there are three cities in South Africa which are part of the C40's climate leadership initiative. And the city of Joburg, where we are based, is definitely one of them. And we are seeing a lot more participation of ordinary citizens, but more than that, entrepreneurs and small business. What part does small business play in the sustainable movement and the climate change movement in Helsinki or in Finland?
I think that the small and medium-sized enterprises are very important in that area as well. We have got quite many small enterprises in Finland and in Helsinki especially, and many of them are focusing on, let's say, green technology, and they're very innovative companies, and they are very active in energy and climate issues, for example, as they see that they have got a global market, and they are trying to of course be active and make a good profit and also make good things for the environment. Tomorrow, for example, there starts a big event for new small companies. It's actually the world biggest event in that area called Slush. It starts tomorrow in Helsinki. There will be tens of thousands of participants there.
That's wonderful. I think we have one of our City of Joburg Green City finalists, because what the City of Joburg had done was they were running a Green City startup initiative, inviting entrepreneurs with ideas to present them and basically assist them in growing their small business ideas into proper businesses. So we have a few of those finalists from Joburg who are actually attending Slush. So that's quite exciting.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's exciting. I hope they will get good prizes and good comments from the panel.
Yes, we obviously, in the City of Joburg, we are definitely looking to collaborate with other cities and other entrepreneurs and other small business initiatives to grow this participation of small business in growing the global green economy. Mr. Nikunen, perhaps my question should be directed at a mayoral representative, but what I also found interesting was that in Helsinki, I hear that you've got one mayor as well as 5 deputy mayors. And that was very strange. It's, and I'll be controversial about it. In certain cities, the mayoral position it could be an ego-driven post. And people are not likely to be open to deputy mayors. But I believe that you've got different mayors who focus on different things. How has that worked in growing your green economy? How does it work?
Yeah, that's true that we have got relatively many deputy mayors, but also the administration of Helsinki City is quite big. We have got more than 40,000 workers for city of Helsinki.
Wow.
So, and that's the biggest employee of Finland. So, but they have shared responsibilities. For example, city planning is in the responsibility of one deputy mayor's, and environment center and construction things are in the responsibility of another deputy mayor. I think they cooperate quite well, and of course the different entities of Helsinki City are relatively independent in practice, so that, for example, environment center can make its own decisions. Of course, we have to inform the deputy mayors and mayor if we make an important decision, and they can comment on it. But in practice, I think the cooperation system functions quite well.
That's great. Listeners, if you're just tuning in now, we are chatting to Mr. Esa Nikunen, who's chatting to us all the way from Helsinki in Finland. And we are talking environmental innovation, we are talking energy efficiency, we're talking climate change solutions. Mr. Nikunen, you must know that Finland, amongst every other country in the world, is envied for its phenomenal education system. South Africa is still battling in terms of meeting certain standards, although we invest a huge amount of money, comes out of our national treasury every year towards education. And I promise you, I was so impressed by not only in Finland, but other Nordic countries where young people are coming out of school, going to university, pursuing professions in sustainability or in environmental innovation. Do you believe that your education system has played a role in your achievements as a country in climate change and environmental solutions?
Yes, absolutely. I think it has had a very big impact on that issue. The schooling system, of course, it's based on long tradition as well. I think what is important is that people really appreciate teachers and schooling system. It's very difficult to get profession as teacher in Finland. It's one of the most popular areas, and that's why one reason why the schools are of good quality.
Are your teachers then well paid? Yeah. Are you saying your teachers are well paid? Is it a well paying profession?
Well, medium paid. I would say not very well paid, but not bad either. It's about the mean salary if you compare, for example, with European countries. It's not on the top, but not down either. But I think it's very, let's say, social phenomena that teachers are among the most appreciated professions in the country. And as we are living quite near the nature in the country, we have got a lot of forest and a lot of sea area and archipelago, etc. I think that's an important item in schools as well. Pupils are doing trips to forest and local environmental protection areas, and they appreciate the nature, and many of them want to work in favor of the environmental protection when they then study something and start their working life.
I think that's great. So for our listeners, when we were flying into Finland, all that you see are trees, and more trees. And when I asked the question of one of our hosts in Finland, what is your economy based on? And we have a commodities-based economy in South Africa. And he said to me, it's paper, which sounds crazy because money is paper and paper is money. But can you tell us just a little bit about your economy and this paper-driven economy?
Yes, the forest industry, pulp and paper, and has been the let's say cornerstone of Finnish economy for at least 100 years. We have got a lot of forest in the country, and it's utilized in an effective way, but it's also protected in an effective way. So it's a balance between the utilization and protection. Nowadays, of course, we have some other areas also that are important for our economy. Most of people know the Nokia company, for example, that used to make huge amount of mobile phones a couple of years ago, for example, that became the number one area for a couple of years. But the forest industry is doing well still, so it's important for us. And also, it has been very good in the environment protection. It used to pollute quite a lot the water areas near the factories, but then they made a major improvements in the 80s and 90s, and now the environment impact is quite minimal if you compare that to the production of the factories.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. Nikunen, for joining us all the way from Helsinki this morning. Listeners, if you ever have a moment to spare, and if you can withstand the cold in Finland, do go out. I believe just about every house in Finland has what they call a sauna. We call them saunas in South Africa.
Yes, even in the environment center we have got a sauna. Of course, it's almost mandatory here in Finland. But you are most warmly welcome to Finland.
I'll tell you, on our last night we went to a restaurant which was right on the beachfront, and we were invited to try out the sauna. And after coming out, we were told that we could actually go into the Baltic Sea. I declined. I think I was a bit too afraid of the cold.
Yeah, I would recommend the summertime in that case if you want to swim in the Baltic Sea. But it's quite warm in let's say July, August. It's okay.
Well, I'll certainly give it a try next time that I am in Finland. And also to our listeners, if there's one place in the world that you will travel and find very big or long, long street signs, every name and every place has so many letters in every word, every name. It was just it was the craziest thing. All these long names and long surnames. It was something to behold. Yeah. But thank you, Mr. Nikunen, for joining us. We are so privileged to have had you on our show today, and we look forward to chatting to you again in future. Hopefully collaborating with Helsinki's finest innovators. We will be chatting to you soon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and I look forward for chatting with you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Cutting now to a break, and we'll be back.
The power of social media. Social media has the power to make your business grow. Yeah. Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.bstownmedia.co.za.
Good morning, listeners. You are still tuned into the Greenovation Show, and you're chatting to Diane in studio with, and I am tickled silly this morning because I finally got someone from Resolution Circle to join us this morning. For those of you who don't know, Resolution Circle is one of those companies, one of those organizations that, guys, leave me inspired every single day. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'll just let you know that what we do have in studio, who we do have in studio with us this morning, is Reinette, Oeloofsen-Muller, and JP de Kock from Resolution Circle. So let's start off. Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Diane.
Hi, Diane. Thank you so much for having us.
Great. So, JP, I'll start with you. Tell our listeners, who is Resolution Circle? I'd never say what, because for me, the organization is driven by people. The people keep it moving. Who is Resolution Circle?
Yes, I think what we do and who we are, I think that's two very different things. To answer who we are, I think we have to go back to 2012 when we started out. A group of engineers with Prof. Willem Clark. We set out to solve one major problem, and that was lack of skills in our country. And where we have young technicians finishing their academic career and they cannot find a job out there. And without the job, the year experience, you cannot get your degree. So we set out to address that issue first. And then we saw the opportunity which arose from that is that you have this massive workforce ready to tackle technical problems. And so out of necessity came this organization which could simultaneously solve the technical gap and help entrepreneurs to commercialize their products. And that's who we are, and by definition then what we do.
How big was this group of engineers? I'm imagining, is it 5 or 6? Is it 20? Is it 30? How big was that group?
Yeah, I think when you go back to 2012, I think it was a group of 8. I am employee number 26, so that was in 2013 when I joined. So yeah, it was a tight team of about 30 guys, and we started off.
That's incredible. Yes. I love it. So I'm just saying, you had this idea to do it, and then what? Where did you go, and who did you approach, and how did you get to do what you are doing now?
Well, we applied for a massive grant, which helped us to set up, with the help of the University of Johannesburg, we set up a factory in Doornfontein. And we also have we started off very humble, literally in a garage. And started
awesome.
Started tackling problems. We had a group of engineers working on the solar car, and we had a group of engineers working with industry, helping to solve problems there. But we saw the main driver coming in last year, 2015, when we started with the Green City startup, working with the city of Joburg, and using the facilities that we've developed over the last 2 or 3 years to solve problems.
Listeners, this is inspirational stuff. Take a page out of this book, because I think what is required in any situation is just the vision, number one, and number two, the drive, because I can't imagine that all of this happened overnight. Over what period are we talking about? You had this idea, and then you start in your garage, and then what period was it?
Well,
before you got the grant and were able to do a bit more.
Yes. So in 2013, we started out in that garage, like I said, and we started building the facility. So the group of engineers, we were looking at what sort of problems that we need to solve, and we need to also, very importantly, we need to link in with industry, because it doesn't help, tackling problems if it isn't linked to industry. The main goal is eventually to be privately, function as a private entity. So after the facilities were scoped, we went through the long and hard process of building that facility, and that's opposite Ellis Park, there's the old Perscore building, which used to be the old printing press. Very, very cool building with old machinery still there from 19 Tut. And we turned that into a factory, basically. So we got 3,000 square meters of factory, ranging from state-of-the-art CNC machinery through to basic sheet metal work, boiler making, fitting and turning facilities, carpentry. So yeah, a massive factory there that we built.
So forgive me if my eyes were glazing over a little bit. Not quite the engineer. So when you talk about boiler making and fitting and all of that, it sounds very technical to me.
Yes.
But I think what's important for our listeners out there is that, and I always say it, sometimes these young guys have ideas. They want to go into business. They don't know what to do. Or they'd like to own stuff. They don't know what. And this is what I always say. Look at your immediate surroundings. Look at what the issues are and develop solutions to those things that you understand very intimately. I don't think that, in fact, I was saying to Gideon the last time when we had met, that I'd been to these Nordic countries and the innovation is great, but it's nothing compared to what I've seen here in the city of Joburg and certainly in South Africa. And for me, that's probably, and I'm completely biased about it, but I think that Africa in general, across the continent, we have unique problems. We have issues that most advanced or developed countries don't have. So the innovation has to be on a completely different level, which is why I like the initiative that you were running with, I believe, in partnership with the city of Joburg and the University of Johannesburg. The Green City Startup for me is probably one of the best things I've seen. And having spoken to our Director General from Finland earlier, it's exciting that they are doing these great initiatives across the globe for small businesses, green entrepreneurs specifically. But I think you've made huge strides, Reinette.
Yeah, I think I've only been at Resolution Circle for 1 year, but I think in that year I really understand that Resolution Circle bridges that gap in the market where people come up with an idea, they then want to prototype it, and then after prototyping they almost stop because nobody in Africa, I think, provides them the opportunity to create a small production run. What makes Resolution Circle so unique is that you can come to us and we can make a one-of. So say, for instance, you want to take your prototype to market. You don't have to then go and produce 50,000 of a product. You can make a small production run, take it to market, see how it goes. You work very tightly with the engineers and the university, and you have very good skills and recommendations. And where it normally takes people 3 years to take something to market, at Resolution Circle we can do it in 1 year, which is a huge, huge jump.
I think that's incredible. I mean, JP, I'm not the ideas person. I can write. That's about as far as it goes. And I can maybe talk just a little bit. But I think what you are offering and what Resolution Circle represents for guys who have ideas is phenomenal, because there are people who can think of ideas, who can come to you and say, this is what I'd like to do. What I like is that it's almost a circle economy. So you're doing skills development while you are producing products, and you're building businesses, and you're feeding the local economy.
Yes, exactly. So the whole point of that is by addressing that initial problem that I spoke of, by building that facility and having the skills available there, even though they are being developed, that doesn't matter. We now have a network which you can tap in, you the listener can tap into. And if you have any idea, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. If you are, great, we can do that as well. We've done that before. We've put small rockets up in the stratosphere. But even if you've got a napkin sketch for something very, very basic, we tend to find that the simpler the idea is, and the more, and it doesn't have to be niche, especially if it addresses a major issue that a lot of people are constantly in contact with. That's the type of idea that will I often find it. I sit there and I listen to the clients and I'm like, why didn't I think of that? So, and it's those type of ideas that not only are we able to assess, and we do a feasibility study, which we start off with, and we first find out if it's technically viable. Then we can go to the next step where we do a prototype. And we do numerous tests. We perfect it. We suggest changes. The client suggests changes. Constantly working with the client so that they not only get what they want, but also get what they don't know they need. And then finally, to what Reinette said, where we then go to the next step, where we tool up and we gear up so that we can make a small-scale production run, so that we test the market, which we believe is there to start off with in the first place.
Listeners, you're tuned into the Greenovation Show, where we chat all things climate change, sustainability, solutions, innovation, and of course, entrepreneurship. I think it was about 3 weeks ago when I attended the Green City Awards, and Paseka, one of your previous winners, was actually there.
Yes.
I want to talk a bit about his process, because for those of you who don't know, Paseka had come up with this waterless. It is called the waterless.
Yeah, it's called waterless. So it's a play on words from waterless.
Yeah.
What the product does, it's a water saving device that goes into toilet cisterns, and basically it mechanically detects whether there's a leak or not, and it'll go only through one cycle and shut the system off, so that the next time a user goes to the bathroom, the toilet will not be functioning, indicating that there's something wrong. And instead of that thing just leaking and no one addressing the problem, there's immediate problem because the toilet's not working.
So Paseka is one of those guys where, again, when we talk social innovation and social entrepreneurship, we basically, I'd received an entry form. I'd seen one of the things he'd written about how he came up with this idea was sitting at his grandfather's house, and he heard this water running, and then his grandfather says, well, this is the toilet. So then he did his research, and he found, how many liters of water does a toilet lose every day? Up to 100 liters of water per day?
I think it's 700.
700.
Yeah.
Listeners, that's frightening. That's frightening. So again, he'd come up with this idea, and you'd gone through the whole process with him. And I think what's important for people to know, and I've done many shows and many interviews where I've spoken to people, and this is always the concern. What if someone takes my idea? What if I go to Resolution Circle and they run with it and they make money off it? Or what if I enter and I don't win, but someone's taken it? I believe that part of your process is assisting these entrepreneurs to patent their products.
Yes, that's the very first step after the prototyping phase. Luckily, Paseka was in a position where he already had a prototype. Granted, it needed a lot of work, and we helped him through that process. And part of that process is, yes, patenting the products in the client's name.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, when they talk about small business and entrepreneurship, and guys, don't get me wrong, I believe that small business is the only way to actually build our economy. The corporate sector is losing jobs by the thousands every month. If we are going to make it work, we have to support small business. But the reality is that most small businesses, when they do start out, cannot employ thousands of people. How do you approach, or how do you manage that process with your entrepreneurs and your small businesses who are coming in with great ideas that could long-term employ lots of people? How do you facilitate that process?
I think we basically take our engineers to help them through the process. We're going through a whole commercialization process. In 2017, we're really going to focus on commercialization. And as part of that process, I think we guide them along the way. And we're also looking to TIA for funding. So people who are saying, well, I've got a small business, I don't really have funding to prototype something, is going to be helped. And we're looking at processes where we can support more of the grassroots entrepreneurship in the country, which is really exciting for me. It's taking it to a different level.
So Resolution Circle is open to investors coming on board?
Yes, of course. So it's not only TI and the DTI and government institutions like that. Some of our entrepreneurs are stick very true to the entrepreneurial spirit, and they also approach private investors and also the banking sector. We had a bunch of the banks there for a training seminar which we hosted. And
you trained them in what? In how to bank or how to support entrepreneurs?
No, and how to think innovatively. So
Okay.
the banking sector, well, that's a separate issue on its own. But it was a nice program which we ran for them, where we, when you're in finance, you tend to get very stuck in your ways. I've got a couple of, accounting friends, so I know their personality type. And
Let's not go down that road.
Yeah. But the point is, you gotta we kind of teach them how to think outside the box, and that gave us a networking opportunity to chat to a couple of investors, and they were very keen in, if you've got the right proposal and you've got the business strategy behind you, and you know where you're going and you've got the rollout, then anything is possible.
Yeah, we basically even supporting them with marketing material up to packaging. So
Wow.
we're looking at a 360 solution, not just, you've got an idea, we'll make it happen and then we drop you. So it's really comprehensive.
I like that. Earlier this year, I attended the annual meetings for the African Development Bank. It was held in Zambia this year. It was exciting. But I think what was the most distressing for me was that coming from the president of the African Development Bank, saying that he's committed to youth, he's committed to entrepreneurship on the continent. They've invested billions for this year in youth entrepreneurship. But he was saying, by what he has seen, he does not believe that traditional banking will support small business or entrepreneurs in the way that they should. He's forecast, along with what's the guy's name? He's the youngest billionaire in dollars on the continent. He started Mara Mentor and Mara Foundation. Ashish Thacker is his name. And they both agreed that venture capital probably is the way to go. And that a lot of these entrepreneurs, which is quite sad, and again, it's sad, but I contrast that with what you guys are doing, is that small businesses are often seen as high risk. Whereas the president from AFDB was saying, it's probably the highest opportunity if people were to just take that leap of faith, because the continent is not going to grow by giving more money to corporates. It's going to grow if you're investing in more small business. And it's, I mean, when they say high risk, it's very small compared to what corporates are asking in terms of debt financing for their business. How do you feel about that?
I agree with you. Yeah, venture capitalist is definitely a better way to go, because the banking sector is quite reserved in its approach towards small business. It is quite high risk, but I do believe it's all in the proposal and in facts and figures, because that's the language that they speak. So if you have an idea on a paper napkin and you slide it over to a banker, he's gonna not be interested. But if you have a detailed approach and you know exactly what milestones you need to knock over at what stage, and you know when you hit the prototype phase, when you've done with your feasibility study, when you're done with your small scale manufacturing, when you've tested the market, if that is all in place, there's no reason why investors should shy away.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that I'm often asked the question, well, where do we go to find funding? And I think it was earlier this year, Resolution Circle was also part of the process for Josie My Beginning. And what I particularly liked about the program was that there was a lean business model canvas.
Yes.
So the traditional way of training and teaching entrepreneurs is not quite the same, because you go into a township environment where you can't assume that certain people are of a certain educational level to be able to understand what you're talking about. The idea might be exceptional, but because people don't know, number one, how to articulate it, even face-to-face. Number two, most of these processes, even with NYDA and lots of these funding engines, you've got to be able to fill out a form online. And for me, not very highly educated, but for me, it's completely intimidating. So I like the fact that, Reinette, that Resolution Circle actually gave it some thought.
Absolutely. And what we see is that mentorship plays a huge role in the success of grassroots entrepreneurs. If we look at, and I'm just going to name the digital ambassadors in this instance, we find that through the city's rollout of Wi-Fi and training the digital ambassadors and putting them in the city to train residents has actually grown so many of these youth who were unemployed, and there's at least 50 of them who've started their own businesses now.
50?
50.
Wow.
It's so fascinating and inspiring.
Can you tell us about that program a bit more? I don't think all of our listeners know about the Digital Ambassadors program.
The Digital Ambassadors program is basically the city's initiative of bridging the digital divide, and what they've done is they've taken unemployed youth through Harambee and given them to Resolution Circle to train. And within 4 days, we train them up and they go into the city and they start earning money. And it's a whole model where it connects unemployment to city service delivery, which is really fascinating.
Wow.
And it actually helps them build themselves up. And what we do is we give them a tablet and they get videos. And while they are training people, they are still learning. So within the 12 weeks that they are contracted, because they're contract workers, they're not employed, they actually get blended learning throughout that period. They've
Wow.
got a mentor, each of them from UJ, who meets them at their access point. And we find that this is developing entrepreneurship within this youth to such an extent that a lot of them have used the money to start new opportunities for themselves, to pay for their studies, to support their families, or even to start a new business. And 50 of them have now started new businesses, and we are having interviews with them. And it's fascinating to see the kind of challenges that they have to bridge, because normal marketing challenges does not apply to them. You know, it's the challenge of being able to walk up to somebody and having the confidence to speak to them, or being able to be at your hotspot and have the ability to sell your service and to communicate. So it's really fascinating.
Reinette, I'm glad you've touched on the subject of mentorship. So we've interviewed two of your Green City Startup finalists so far. In fact, one in studio, one via Skype. And on both occasions, they mentioned the issue of mentorship. And I agree. It's one of those huge obstacles, and in many ways it's a barrier to not entry, but barrier to success, long-term sustainable success for a lot of small businesses. And I think, unfortunately, perhaps I'm a bit of a socialist in that respect. I don't believe that mentorship should be monetized in the way that is in this country. The business incubation process in some instances just fail miserably because it's completely monetized. Your thoughts, JP, on the role of mentorship in developing small business?
No, that it is absolutely crucial, because you can't just have retail space that you let out to a guy and expect him to make a business on his own. Even basic things, dressing appropriately, being on time, how to articulate your thoughts, preparing an agenda, setting up meetings. Most people, that come in don't have those basic set of skills that we take for granted.
Yeah.
And once those are developed, then you can sit in the meeting with them and guide them through the process of whatever it might be, scoping the project, driving the project, speaking to investors, preparing for talks like that. The mentorship side is very crucial. That's why we've set up within Resolution Circle, not only, yes, you let out space, you need a space to sit, but in that you also get an allocated amount of time, engineering time, so you could get engineering consulting hours, and you get business consulting hours with either myself or Gideon, where we help you through the process. What is your next step? And we ask difficult questions, so we might come across as a bit mean sometimes, but it's
necessary.
It's
part
necessary.
Of the process.
Yeah, because it's the questions that people are going to ask you down the road. So you better ask it in a safe environment and have the questions asked now, so that you stress and sweat a little bit and your voice is all jittery, so that when you in the actual D-Day moment, you are smooth and calm and confident.
So listeners, if you haven't met Gideon before, he's one of those guys whose enthusiasm is contagious, absolutely love him. Every time that I've met him, I walk away feeling invigorated and refreshed and all of that. So I'm hoping that you'll take some time to go and meet with Gideon at some point. We're going to a quick ad break, and when we come back, we're talking City of Joburg and our local entrepreneurship economy.
27 Boxes is a realization of edgy design and practical implementation. A radical departure from the shopping malls of our generation, yet not a return to the high streets of our youth. 27 Boxes showcases the best of a shopping centre set in a garden, surrounded by the bohemian suburb that is Melville. 27 Boxes, shop, play, eat.
Listeners, you back with us on the Green Ovation Show, where, as you know, we talk all things climate change. I'm a little bit obsessed about it. Not necessarily all about saving the trees or the rhino. We're talking global issues. We're talking holistic sustainability. We're talking sustainable societies, homes, communities, and entrepreneurship. In studio with us this morning, we have Reinette, Oelefson-Muller. I have to keep practicing that. And JP de Kock from Resolution Circle. For me, when people ask me who Resolution Circle is and what they do, I say, well, basically they are the innovation arm for the city of Joburg, who has a very close relationship with the University of Johannesburg. Guys, thank you so much for joining me this morning. We've had a wonderful conversation. I'm so inspired. I'm so enthusiastic about the work that you guys are doing. I'm often criticized for saying this, but I do believe that there's something in the air in the city of Johannesburg where we have a growing number of aspirant entrepreneurs. I'm not saying that the rest of the country doesn't have it, but certainly there are opportunities here in the city through a number of initiatives, whether it's SAB Kickstart or Seed Engine or the Venture Network sessions that happen every month or the hookup dinners. There's a growing community of entrepreneurs in the city of Joburg. What have you found, JP?
I fully agree with you there. The entrepreneurial spirit is quite high in Joburg. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, obviously there are opportunities, and I think the youth is quite driven. But I think the main driver for this is the problems that the country is facing at the moment. And through adversity, people tend to approach difficult circumstances in one of two ways. And it's either you sit there and wait for things to get better, or you identify solutions to the problem that you're facing now. And it's those guys that have the spirit to turn a problem into an opportunity and potentially a business.
Yeah, I like what Ravi Naidu, who's the Executive Director for Economic Development at the City of Joburg. He said it on the night of your awards, Reinette, that we need to make your pain point. I quite like that. And I think that we do have many young entrepreneurs, and not necessarily entrepreneurs, they don't consider themselves to be that, but innovators and disruptors who don't care about the obstacles. They're wanting to change things. Yes. Would you agree, Reinette?
Absolutely. Once you start working with these entrepreneurs and you see their spirit and their ability to fight the fact that sometimes they don't even have funding, it's just absolutely inspirational.
Great. Guys, it's been amazing having you in studio this morning. I know this won't be the last time. I did say we've already interviewed a few of your finalists. I'm working my way through the list to make sure we've interviewed all of them before the year draws to a close. Thank you so much for your gift of love, I'll call it, for the city of Joburg.
Thanks so much,
for the work that you do. To be able to get up every day and know that you are making a difference in what could very well be seen as a hopeless situation in the country. Our unemployment is at an all-time high. I think the morale of the country is quite low. Self-esteem is low as a people. But the work that you are doing inspires me and invigorates, I'm sure, our listeners as well. We look forward to having you with us again sometime soon. And remember what we say at Green Ovation. We have 53 million voices in South Africa. I'm using mine. Yours.
Thanks, Dan.
Cheers.
If you're looking for an information technology and communication solution company suitable for your small or medium-sized enterprise, then look no further than Hive ICT. They aim to provide SMEs with the same level of service expected by large corporations without sacrificing the personal relationship they have with their customers. Offering remote and on-site support, as well as IT system design, network design and installations, server and workstation maintenance, and web design, web application development, and more. Visit www.hiveict.com right away.